Number 6 of the final series for the 2016 Championship Tour. Let's see if Pavel can become a world champion or if DrHippi is going to take this one to a game number 7.
And DrHippi going with his Druid. This is the deck that Pavel feasted on to make his way to the final. He, in 2 straight matches, beat Druid 8 times. 4-0 in both of them when he was on the brink of elimination, and now he just needs to win 1 more to be the world champion.
This is the deck that DrHippi needs to win with right now. This is the wildcard deck for DrHippi that has probably given him the most struggle and has probably given Pavel the most success when he sees it on the other side, as you mentioned. He does start off with the Swashbuckler. Bite can be a decent removal tools, but you know, this deck isn't really about the minions, so I'm not sure how happy he is with that Swashbuckler pickup.
Bite can be interesting because it does give you tools to deal with Azure Drake later on.
True.
You don't necessarily have to invest actual resources. Getting something off of the Swashbuckler that can deal with that can be pretty big. It can also deal burst damage.
Yeah, true. And I think Pavel is gonna breathe a sigh of relief when he sees that DrHippi has missed the wild growth again with this Druid deck. He does have Nourish and he does have Innervate, so he's got plenty of ramp tools along with the Mire Keeper to get him that mana, to get him those cards that he needs. But this turn 2 has sort of been a big whiff for DrHippi in the series.
Yeah, he has definitely struggled with this Druid deck. And now I think he's debating perhaps whether he wants to use his Wrath here, just cycle through, try and find perhaps some actual ramp. He does have the Mire Keeper, and that also the option to potentially Innervate out and Nourish on a future turn as well to get his mana going. But the problem if you do use your Nourish early for ramp, you can run low on cards, but ooh, DrHippi, he is just going to ramp up, get Nourish online, and as we were saying, you know, this can lead you to potentially running low on resources later on, but he's looking to take control of the game with tempo right now.
Yeah, this makes powerful draws from the top of his deck much more powerful because he has the mana to utilize them. He can also keep ramping up with Mire Keeper. He does have Wrath as cycle, but he needs some help. He needs second Nourish. He needs Azure Drake. He needs more tools to increase his hand size.
And we see Pavel pick up a 2nd copy of Sinister Strike. We saw that kind of rotting in his hand last game and mentioned that the sort of greed of this Malygos-Yogg deck can lead it to have dead cards this stage of the game, and Pavel, he's got both of them in his hand.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see what DrHippi goes for here. Ramp is, you know, the first choice, but is there ever a situation where since you ramped with the Nourish, you create a 2/2 to try and create a little more
right on time.
2nd game in a row.
Pillager for Pavel. It's kind of hanging out in his deck until turn 4.
It's like he's got an agreement with Tomb Pillager to show up on turn 4 in the grand finals, but that is actually quite a crucial draw. DrHippi has ways to deal with it, but those are resources that he otherwise wouldn't have had to spend if DrHippi didn't have it, and Moonfire is not really helping him.
And crucially, that Tomb Pillager, if it dies, will give Pavel a coin. The coin, plus Backstab, even just firing off Sinister Strikes on his own turn, can make a giant Edwin Van Cleef. DrHippi's deck does not have a mulch. He has no way to deal with a huge minion.
Yeah, I mean, DrHippi, I feel like that was a huge risk going with the Nourish for ramp early on in the game. Nourish, a lot of times used for card draw. Maybe DrHippi was afraid that he'd get too far behind if he had to wait that long to get that many cards. But he had the option to Innervate Mire Keeper, which isn't as much ramp, but you're also developing a body. So, I mean, DrHippi taking a risk on the big stage, not paying off yet, but I mean, if he draws into big stuff, he could get a lead in this match.
Yeah, he's got the Feral Rage, gonna go ahead and remove that Tomb Pillager, but as we mentioned, that does give Pavel the ability to have an absolutely explosive turn 5.
All right, well, let's see.
Pavel picks up a Shiv. That he could actually use Backstab plus the Shiv to even power up the Van Cleef a little bit more. It will be Backstab. We know that. That's going to start things off. But exactly how Pavel wants to maneuver, how many of his resources he wants to invest here, because he could use the coin and a Sinister Strike as well.
Oh, he's going for it.
He is going for it. It will be Shiv and Backstab, Sinister Strike. Edwin Van Cleef is coming down, and he is huge. A 10-10. And that is a 2-turn clock for DrHippi. He's at 21 life. Just a couple of hits from that will absolutely knock him out of this tournament.
That is so big. Pavel on turn 5 was able to create a 10-10 Van Cleef. DrHippi would need to have sort of the perfect answers here to deal with it. If you count up even all the removal he has in his hand, it's only 9 damage from spells. So he would have to base tank. He actually goes for the draw, but now he just has to rely on this Arcane Giant and hope that Pavel doesn't have a sap to remove it.
But he does. Yep. Pavel actually, he's very, very close to just finishing the game off with Bite plus Sinister Strike as well. He has 7, 8 more damage he can do this turn. He could put DrHippi down to just 3 life, but he could also just sap plus Barnes and all but assure that DrHippi would be dead next turn.
I mean, you saw Pavel, he gave like a big sigh, realizing that he was that close to winning the World Championship. DrHippi's at 11 health, and he saw last turn, he gave away the fact that he had no way to deal with that Edwin Van Cleef. He played the Arcane Giant with the hopes that Pavel wouldn't have a way to answer it. But he does. He's got the perfect answer with the sap.
Yeah,
buys him 2 turns.
And he doesn't even need 2 turns. He just needs a single window to connect with Edwin Van Cleef one more time.
And he's making sure that he puts on as much damage as possible. So even if DrHippi finds a way to deal with Edwin, it means that he has enough damage in his hand, plus the SI7 agent, to have lethal damage.
DrHippi needs a miracle. He needs Raven Idol swipe. That does not look like he has quite enough. He can take down the Van Cleef, but he has no way to survive the following turn.
Yeah, he can take down the Van Cleef with the spells that he has. I mean, of course, from his perspective, he can survive, but Pavel has Bite. That's 4 damage. He has Sinister Strike. That's 3 damage. He'll have the SI7 agent on the board. That's 3 more. That's plenty of damage to end the game.
And we said Bite looked a little innocuous off the Swashbuckler earlier, but it will be Pavel with that Bite burst. This is the last turn for DrHippi for the World Championship, and this is the last turn before Pavel. He will do it. The Bite, the Sinister Strike, the attack. Pavel is your 2016 Hearthstone World Champion.
1 game away from Blizzcon last year, comes into this year and wins the World Championship.
He took his near miss last year as in